everyone, and welcome to The Naked Truth. Trisha Hershberger here, and I am joined by Trace Dominguez today. Woo, woo,
Hello.
woo, woo.
Yeah, hello.
That's Trace from DNews, guys. Trace, where can people find you? What have you done before?
Easiest is DNews, but you can also find me on Twitter at Trace Dominguez. You can find my other show, which is called This Week in Discovery News, but it was really bad, so don't go find
Ooh.
that.
Don't find it?
It was really bad.
Okay, well, sometimes you have stinkers. But today we're here to discuss long distance relationships, which is going to be fun. But before we jump into that, I want to thank our Naked Army vloggers from last week. That's Kavaja, Hiram, Christopher, James, Prescott and Kristen, El Pollo, Carly, and Allie. I'm so jealous of your wine right now. I'm going to keep saying that.
I'm
I feel
sorry, it's
like.
really good.
Yum. Sometimes I do Naked Truth vlogs with wine, but today is not one of those days, and I'm regretting that decision now.
Sorry, we should have pre-organized our whining.
We should have. So Trace, can you tell people why I might have you on here as kind of an expert in long distance dating?
I've had a number of long distance relationships, the most recent of which is no longer long distance, which is
Yay!
fantastic. Let me tell you. So I was dating this girl. Her name is Flavia. She's great. She was living in New York. I was living in DC. Then I moved to San Francisco and made it even worse. And now she moved here, and we're very happy.
And how long has that been that you guys were doing long distance?
Let's see. We started dating in July. So then she moved to New York probably in August. So we were doing long distance for like a year and a half.
Ooh, that's a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And you said you guys were only dating like a month before you started that?
Yeah, 2 months. Yeah.
Kudos, man.
But we'd known each other for many years and had, sort of gone on dates, but we were like, I don't know.
Well, kudos to you guys for giving it a shot. I have a few long distance relationships in my background, actually. The guy that I dated all through high school, he went to a different college than me. So for the first 2 years of him being in college, we were long distance. And then when I first moved to LA, I was still dating my boyfriend from Philly. So we were long distance for like 6 months probably. And that was the only long distance I ever did. But I remember thinking during the time, like, this is 100% doable. Like the long
Yeah,
distance thing that everyone's like, it's not doable at all. Don't do it. It's not
right.
even worth it. It was doable. It wasn't easy.
No, that's the thing. It's never easy. So I'm looking up some science because I've got some science on this that I forgot to pull up before I.
Oh my God, I love that you have science on this. This is
I know.
amazing.
That's my thing.
That's your
But yeah,
thing.
the thing is, it's absolutely doable, but it's also really hard.
Right. Well, I mean, some of the things that I remember are like, you have to have trust. Like, there are certain must-haves. You have to have trust. You can't be doubting every time the other person goes out and does anything. Otherwise, you're limiting that person from having a life.
Right.
And they'd be
Yeah.
doing the same thing to you.
And you're also kind of limiting yourself because you're just sitting around being like, what are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah, you're going to go nuts.
You're like torturing yourself.
Yeah,
There's no
that's
reason to do that.
awful.
There's no reason. So yeah, I agree. Trust is important. Communication. Because if you can't communicate that you don't have the 100% trust part,
Yeah,
it's never going to work.
that's true. You don't want to lie and be like, yeah, I'm totally okay when you go out clubbing with all those people I don't know, when you're not okay with it. You got to be
Yeah,
honest.
you're not okay with it. And then I think also is, aside from communication and trust, although those you could almost use these for any relationship,
That's true.
long distance,
Most definitely.
but a routine I think is really important.
Oh, tell me about that because that's not something that I tried.
No? Okay.
No.
So I think this is why it worked between Flavia and I for so long.
Hmm.
Um, Everything I had read about long distance relationships said that you should make sure that you have time with each other and that you spend that time in a couple of different ways. And there are a lot of different like blogs and papers and all sorts of stuff. But what we decided to do is pick two of those things, and that was every Tuesday was date night. No matter what, Tuesday was date night.
I can attest that that's true because I remember being up in San Francisco to like hang out with you guys at D News, and you were like, it's Tuesday night date night. And I thought,
Yeah, no.
doesn't your girlfriend live on the other side of the country? It's okay. I'm not going to ask. It's fine.
Yeah, I was like, I usually would just tell people like, I got a date. And people would be like, where are your girlfriend? And I'd be like, in the Skype, I'm gonna go date her.
Oh,
I'm gonna go on
sorry.
a date with her.
My phone's being crazy. Continue.
Oh, And then the other thing, aside from a date night,
Hmm.
which, not everybody wants to do it the same day, that's fine. You can shift it around. And we definitely skipped some if there was family things or, whatever, just like anything.
Right.
But you always wanted to give notice, just like a real date. You treat
Oh, I love that.
it's a real thing. It's like you were really getting together because that's important.
That's so smart because I remember being like, I haven't been able to talk to him on the phone in like 3 days, and it's because we didn't have a schedule.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, I talked to him like 10 minutes. Sometimes that would happen. Like I would talk to
Right.
Flavia for like 10 minutes over like a week. And it seemed, and probably was like 72 hours. But you know what? I meant
But it seemed like a week. Yeah, that's super smart. And how often did you guys get to visit each other?
we tried to visit about once a month, and it
Oh,
helped
wow.
be doing what I was doing for work
Hmm.
helps a lot. Working with DNews, we're flying around, so she was in LA for something, and it turned out that I was going to be down there about the same time, so she just stayed a little bit later, and I
Nice.
got there a little bit earlier. Or, I would fly to New York for something for work, and that's where she was living, so that helped a lot. Or we would try different things. We also discussed like meeting in the middle, although I think
Ooh.
that adds more stress. I think because
Well,
then you're planning a vacation, sort of.
yeah,
Like,
you got to figure out where you're going to stay and
right, right.
transportation. Are you renting a car?
Right. And then the other routine that we had, which I think is actually more important than date night.
Okay.
You ready? This is where the knowledge drops right here.
Boom. Drop the knowledge, Trace.
Okay. We called it Rad Day, which is sort of like ATM machine, I get, but
Okay.
um, Relationship Assessment Day.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
So every Sunday, if something the previous week had bothered you that you hadn't brought up, bring it up on Sunday, no matter what it is.
This is ingenious.
It was so great because there would be things that you don't know. Okay, if I were standing next to you,
Right.
you would be visibly uncomfortable.
Because we're naked?
Well, I mean, because we're naked, but
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Right.
Because you're apart, you don't necessarily get that nonverbal.
Right. I feel very comfortable with you naked right
Exactly. Yeah,
now.
it's great. So this the same thing in any other relationship, right?
Right.
If I'm not seeing you, even if it's Skype chats and
Mhm.
like once in a while, if I don't see you all the time, I'm gonna miss those little nonverbal cues. And you could be really mad about something, or I could be really mad about something, and I'm sure there are some stereotypes to be thrown around, but it was pretty much equally. Like sometimes I was mad at her
Mhm.
for doing something, and I would tell her on Sunday if I didn't have the guts, I guess, to tell her when it was happening, or I thought it was,
That's so smart.
it worked out really well. We didn't always use Rad Day, but
But
it
you
was
had it.
yeah, we had it. It was like a standing thing. If it's Sunday, one of us would be like, "Do you have anything you want to say for Rad Day?"
Oh, I love that. And I tried something similar in not a long distance relationship, but it was like every like 3 month check-in. Like
Mm,
just gonna check in, make sure we're still on the same page. Is there anything that we need to talk about that maybe we were too uncomfortable to talk about before? It's just really smart. It's a
yeah,
way to communicate when maybe one or both of you is not necessarily the best at communication. And I think it's superhuman to want to avoid conflict, especially when you're long distance. Like you don't want to rock the boat.
right. Yeah, because you don't want to be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm hanging up, and I'll never answer their phone call again, or something like that. You don't want that.
No,
Who
you don't want
wants that?
that.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
I love
Okay,
I love your 3 month check-in. I might have to ask Flavia if she's down. Be like, let's go get coffee.
yeah.
How things been?
Well, that's Nate and I would do it because, like, 3 months into our relationship, neither of us were saying "I love you" or anything like that. We were still getting to know each other, and we kind of started it just to be like, "Hey, are you still like doing this because you see it going somewhere, or are we doing this for now?" And like, just want to check in and make sure we're on the same page and openly communicating, and because we don't want to accidentally lead each other astray.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I really like that.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay, so obstacles to long distance. So I'll tell you, since neither of my long distances worked out, what
Mm,
didn't work out for me. And
okay.
you can tell me what you think like good things to overcome those obstacles are. So in my first one, we dated for like 3 years before we went long distance. So we knew each other really well.
Got it.
And then we were long distance for 2 years. And in that time, we grew apart like crazy. Like
Sure.
he became very introverted and I became very extroverted to the point where even though we really cared about each other, it had to end because we were just two different people.
Right.
So we could have done your date night once a week. That would have been much smarter. There was also no video chat at that time that I
Yeah,
know
that's
of,
hard. That's
which
hard.
which would have made it easier. But yeah, what would you recommend to, overcome the obstacle of growing apart?
I mean, I don't know. In that sense, it seems to me like those 3 years together,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be in a relationship, and those 2 years apart, you got to be. So I don't know. I look at long distance relationships really weird in that it seems almost like it's two single people choosing not to date more than two
Okay.
people dating, right? Does
Right.
that make sense?
It does
So,
feel like that. Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
So you were 3 years together, and you were together.
Right.
Like you're in the same town, you see each other all the time, you go on dates, you go to places together, you got friends together. Now you're two single people who decide not to date other people.
Right.
So you immediately start growing apart. I think
Right.
and then the question is, are you growing, like you're growing regardless, but are you going to grow in a similar direction? You're going
Right.
to grow a little bit apart and then like a plant, I don't know, you're going to find a way.
And I think probably better communication between us and like more of us involving each other and what we were doing would have helped there.
Right.
Um,
But at least lasso each other back toward each other.
right, exactly. Because for me, it got to the point where I was like, oh man, I have to go visit him this weekend. It's going to be so boring. I
Ooh,
know. You
ouch.
never want to think that.
Ooh,
And that's kind of when it dawned on me that I was like, I should be excited to see him. This is
yeah,
bad. Um,
absolutely.
and so, we had a conversation and it ended. And then, okay, so that's growing apart. But okay, boredom is another one. How do
Yeah,
you keep it fresh? How do you keep it from just being like, hey, what'd you do at work today? Cool, what'd you do at work today? Okay, great, I had this for dinner. Yeah, I had this for dinner. Okay, talk to you tomorrow.
yeah, I know. I don't even have any advice for that, man. That's the hardest part.
My thought after like reading about it a lot is if you constantly challenge yourself to learn about the other person,
Mm,
that can help to keep it fresh and keep it because I think we assume that we know everything about the other person very early on when it gets casual and comfortable, when maybe we don't.
yeah,
And if we can constantly learn new things about the other person, it keeps them interesting to us.
right. Like, how many jobs did they have? What's their
Yeah,
favorite color? Like,
yeah.
just like things that. So this made me Okay, I failed at this.
How many jobs did Flavia have?
I don't know. I think a couple. Okay, I need to ask her this now. This is gonna happen.
Well, but this is actually
Our
relationship
woman was
advice for your
active.
whole life. This is like when you guys are 65 years old together, keep
Yeah.
learning about the other person. Like
Oh, yeah,
every
yeah, yeah,
day, learn
yeah.
about the other person. Don't assume
Right.
that you know everything.
Exactly. Ask people the same questions that you asked them before,
Yeah.
because they might give you a different answer because they're in a different mood.
Yeah.
I mean, don't ask them their favorite color every day, but there are more interesting things. So I was gonna say I failed at this because Flavia bought a book of like questions to ask your partner,
Ooh.
and I was like, "That's stupid. I know how to ask you questions."
No, no.
I just spit, and I didn't. Obviously, I didn't because I don't know how many jobs she had. I
You
don't know.
see, questions can be fun.
I
I
don't
don't know
know
if you
what she
know.
should take to a desert island.
Yeah. What would you take?
I think I would take Planet of Adventure. It's over there on my bookshelf.
Nice. It's a
I'd
good
go get
book.
it, but you'd see my butt.
Yeah, please don't do that.
I don't want to get
This show
flagged.
is not actually about showing anything besides your raw soul. You like that?
Yeah, I like
Very
that.
poetic.
And a little bit of my nipples.
And
Sorry
a
about
little bit of your nipples. You're actually cheating. I always say no nipples from the shoulders up, but I will make an exception for you, Trace, because I love
that. I
you.
could like move one step closer.
There you go.
No nipples now. Now
Nipple
it's just like
free.
just a little right there.
I love it. Okay, so here's an interesting one that I just recently was talking to someone about. When you're doing long distance, how do you feel about, like you said, doing long distance is two people choosing not to date other people? How do you feel about long distance polyamorous relationships where you're like, well, while we're not together, we
Hmm.
can open it up because it's reasonable to assume that, like, just because your partner's not in the same town that you are doesn't mean that their sex drive isn't just as active.
Dude,
Um,
right.
what a crazy question for me, only because I feel like I'm the type of person that it would be very hard for me to be okay with polyamory.
Hmm.
But I do see how it would make a long distance relationship easier
Why do you say that? Why
in
do you
some
say?
ways.
I mean, why do you say first? Why do you say that you're not that type of person? And then also, why do you say it would be easier then? Because if you recognize that it would be easier, but you don't want to be
I
that.
think in some ways it would be easier. I think it would be easier in that, then you're not having sexual frustration add to any kind of anger or frustration in not seeing the other person in a long time, that kind of stuff. It
Yeah,
takes that element out of it. And you
yeah,
know that your partner, like, you don't feel like you're depriving your partner of anything. And I'm sure that's a nice feeling too. I would also think that it makes it harder because they're constantly having this very intimate thing with other people.
yeah,
And that's why I don't think I'd be able to do it because for me, I think that that's a very intimate thing that I would only want to share with someone that I'm, trying to grow closer with.
right,
So it would immediately, like, I feel like all the jealousy bells and whistles would go off for
right,
me, thinking, well, now you're sharing this beautiful, intimate thing with someone else. I don't think I'd be able to handle it personally.
right, right. Yeah, and that's completely. I think that's a completely normal reaction for sure. I have never been part of a polyamorous or open relationship of any kind, so I
Mm,
can't speak to it on a personal level. But
mm-hmm.
I have known many people who have been in those.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, in my experience, they don't work out particularly well in unless you have something else already. You know,
Okay.
like if you have this, okay, we're going to be together.
Mm-hmm.
You sleep with whomever you want to sleep with. Don't tell me about it. Like
Oh,
I don't want to know.
okay.
That was something that I think works for some people. Other people are like, I want to know about it so that I can know and get it over, like and get it out of the way.
Right.
And these were the kinds of people that I've talked to over the years. And I have friends who are polyamorous, and they're down. Like they're,
Yeah, that's what
oh,
I'm like.
oh,
I
oh,
know some people are just totally like it doesn't bug them, and God
but
bless their
it
hearts.
bugs me. I don't think I could handle it. But at the same time, Flavia and I did, and this was probably after a year of already being apart, in
Yeah.
long distance. We were home for Christmas, and my brother, um, like, was asking about this stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
what we thought about it. And Flavia and I both kind of were like, you know what? I wouldn't want to know. I don't want an open relationship. But if you got drunk and something happened, like you slipped up,
Right.
made a mistake, don't tell me about it.
Oh.
Don't tell me. I don't want to know because I'm just going to get jealous and I'm going to make it worse in my head than what it really is in real life, which
Yeah.
was you got drunk and you did a thing that you regret.
Hmm.
Now, if you were like regularly doing something,
Regularly messing up.
right, if it was like with the
Right.
same person and a bunch of times in a row, then maybe it's time to have a
Hmm.
conversation and at least look at that and say like, is this a thing where we need to reevaluate our relationship? That's what Rad Day is for, I guess. But like, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
that's where I am not a super super jealous person,
Yeah.
but when I do feel jealousy, it like burns like a fire and it just won't, and it like hurts me.
I think
So,
a lot of people feel like that when it
yeah, I
comes
don't,
to
I like
jealousy.
die inside a little bit. It's bad.
Yeah, I
It's really
get it. I get it. I think we all do. Okay, so you were talking about science behind long distance relationships. Did you
yes.
find that? Did you pull it up?
I pulled it up. Hang on, let me grab my telephono. So 25 to 50% of college students are currently in a long distance relationship. That's
Wow. That's when it
about
happened
3
for
million
me.
Americans. About 3 million Americans in a long distance relationship.
Wow.
And that includes military deployment, work
Okay.
preferences, internet dating, immigration and visa delays. Those are all things that we don't normally think about. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
which I really liked, because it's like normally you think long distance relationship, you think like, oh, well, two people moved apart or two people who, work or live in different cities. But military deployment is technically a long distance relationship.
Very true. And I know a lot of people, the people that I know that are involved with the military or their spouses are involved with the military, it's like they're married and then they're long distance, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And
So hard.
usually, like a lot of people, and not to stereotype, but a lot of people get married prior to deployment because of the benefits given back to the spouse. They want to make sure those benefits
Oh,
go somewhere. And so
interesting.
whether that relationship is like affected by that, I don't know, but I do know that it's very difficult to jump right into one. And
Yeah.
especially if like you're excited about getting married and you're finally happy with somebody and then you're just gone. And that can both accelerate a relationship and it also can like put it completely on hold.
Yeah. Well,
And
for,
that's weird and hard.
It is. It'd be so hard. It's heartbreaking. I don't know. For me, the only time that I could ever see long distance working is if there was a light at the end of the tunnel, if there was an end in sight. Because the second time I got out of a long distance relationship, I had moved to LA and he had stayed in Philadelphia. And I think he was hoping that I wouldn't like LA and I would move home, or like I think he was trying to call my bluff.
Right.
And I got out here
It's
and
like,
I absolutely loved it. And I started making friends here and I got a job here and I got an apartment here. And when I got my own apartment and signed a 12-month lease, it was a huge fight
yeah.
because he wasn't expecting me to do that. And then as we kind of went on with things, we would have conversations like, "Well, are you ever going to move back to Philly?" No. Well, are you do you ever want to move out to LA? No. And so it
Wow.
was like, "Okay, so what are we doing here then? If there's no light at the end of the tunnel, how long are we indefinitely going to be living in this long distance relationship?"
Right. No, I think that's like a great point. Like
Hmm.
that's if we were going to add like the ways to make a long distance relationship work, trust, communication, routines, light at the end of the tunnel
Yeah.
is definitely in the top 5 for sure. Cuz super personal, like Flavia was not going to move to San Francisco until like this week. That was like her original plan was
Yeah.
sometime in July.
Okay.
And so during one of the rad days, I was like, look, I can't wait till July. Like that would have been
Yeah.
essentially 2 years of long distance dating. And I was like, look, we need a compromise. You need to either move it up or we need to reassess this whole deal. Because
Right.
the light at the end of that tunnel is like barely visible to me.
It's so far in the
And it was like,
distance.
this was when I'd first moved to San Francisco. So I'd been here a few months and she wasn't going to move here at that point for like 18 or 19 more months. And I was just like, that is too far. That is too far away.
Yeah.
And so we talked about it over the next, month or two, and we reevaluated it and we revisited it for time and time again, like over the next few months. But it was still like the conversation was opened,
Yeah.
which made the tunnel seem shorter already. Because at least we were talking about it, as
Yeah.
opposed to just like dreaming about this time when we were together, which is a trap everybody can fall into. Where
Yeah, of
it's
course.
you're like, it sounds like your ex was like assuming that you wouldn't like it, as you said, and
Mhm.
then not making plans to be together again. They were just assuming you would come back to them.
Yeah, I think that's a
That's
great
unhealthy.
point. In long distance relationships, there can be a ton of assumption, whether it's conscious or subconscious,
Absolutely.
where, the parts that you don't know about the person, again, if you're not asking questions, if you're not trying to learn something new about them, your brain's just kind of filling in with what you assume it is.
Yeah.
And that I think can be especially hard, not only long distance, but then once you're actually together again, because then I feel like you're kind of like hit in the face with, oh, but I thought you were this. And now that
Yeah.
you see them every day, you find out whether or not your assumptions were correct.
Yeah. And that runs the whole gamut. Um, like you find out all the gross things that it's easy to hide in a long distance relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those may have existed before, and some of those may exist now, and they didn't exist, and they somehow developed in the interim, right?
Yeah.
But especially in like some cases when you start long distance dating early, like Flavia and I did.
Mm-hmm.
I hope she's okay with me talking about all this stuff. I hope
It's the
so.
naked truth, Flavia. We tell
Yes,
all.
she can watch. She can watch and get in the
She
comment.
can.
But you know, there are things that come up that you're like, I didn't know that she farted so much, or because you didn't know. You just didn't know,
You didn't know, you assumed.
right? I fart a lot too, though, so it works.
I think everybody does. It's just how good you are at hiding it. Okay, so if we're gonna wrap this up for everybody, what did we say our things were? Our like how to survive long distance relationship. We said communication,
Most important, for sure.
trust,
Trust, also very important, maybe equally important.
having an end in sight,
Yes, and a routine.
and a routine.
A
Okay,
routine.
so that's four.
Four
Four
things.
really good
We
tips.
come up with one more though, because I really like 5. I'm gonna look into science and see if I have any more science.
Okay. And
Really,
while Trace is looking at the science, I'm going to throw the question to you guys, to the Naked Army. If you want to make your own Naked Truth vlog response, you can do that by uploading it to YouTube and then sending it to me via the About section of this channel. The question to you guys is, what are your tips for surviving long distance relationships? And if you've never been in one, do you think you'd be good at it? Why or why not? Okay, Trace.
I got one.
Number 5.
Number 5. This is a little more racy.
Ooh.
According to Pacific Magazine, long distance couples are better at discussing sex than those who live nearby. But those who live nearby have more sex.
That 100% makes sense to me.
Yeah, because the people who are far apart can only really talk about it. They're like,
Right.
"We're
So you
hot.
have to communicate about it.
Eggplant emoji. Oh, yeah, eggplant emoji back." And that's it. That's your Tuesday night. If it's Tuesday night's date night.
Awesome. Well, Trace, thank you so much for dropping the knowledge on long distance relationships. I feel like this will help a lot of people.
I am glad that you asked. No, I don't get to talk about my long distance relationship much. I'm really happy. Here's a really bad picture of us. Hang on.
Oh, I want to see. Oh, she's
blue.
beautiful. Good job, Trace.
My printer didn't print it in anything but blue, but
she has the most lovely smile.
I agree.
She looks like such a warm, lovely person.
She is.
Yay! Well, congratulations to you guys on finally getting to be together, and I hope the rest of the journey is good.
Congratulations on you for being happy as well.
Thank you. All right, so Trace, where can people find you if they want to see more of your stuff?
If they want to see more of my stuff, they can come to DNews. That's easy enough. I also have my own channel that I'm going to be putting more videos on as time goes by. You can Google me. The channel's Travel and Trace. I started it years and years ago. So.
Oh my gosh, are you going to travel?
I have traveled in the past, and that's when I started it back in like 2005. But now it's mostly just going to be videos of me chit-chatting about stuff.
Okay, well, if you ever need a guest on Travel and Trace, you let me know, sir.
I will do that.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Big thanks to Trace for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.